So there's Helen Voss, gliding back down the aisle like she owns the place, totally unaware that the text Amara just sent is already pinging its way to Roland Kane's phone. The cabin's still humming along, passengers sipping their drinks, the soft glow of overhead lights casting shadows on the carpet. Helen's in her element. Pouring a pineapple juice for some guy in a pinstripe suit, chatting up a lady in a gray blazer about the weather in London. She's got that fake friendly flight attendant voice dialed in. The one that says, "I'm here to help but don't push me." Everything's smooth as silk, just how she likes it. Meanwhile, Amara's still in 3A, staring at that sad little cup of water on her tray. The ice is half melted now, pulling around the edges like it's mocking her. She's not mad, not yet, just off. She's flown first class a million times, and sure, sometimes the service isn't perfect. But this feels personal. She glances around, catching the guy across the aisle swirling his cocktail like he's at a rooftop bar. The woman up front's got a cranberry juice. Ice cubes clinking as she stirs it. Amara's not dumb. She knows what she saw. So why's Helen acting like she's the only one stuck with water? She decides to give it one more shot. Maybe she caught Helen at a bad moment. A new flight attendant's rolling through now, Lila, younger, maybe late 20s, with a messy bun and a vibe that says she's still figuring this job out. Lila's got a fresh tray stacked with juice options, pineapple, cranberry, even some fancy fruit blend for the bougie types. Amara leans forward a little, catching her eye. "Hey, excuse me," she says, keeping her voice low, friendly. "Could I get some orange juice now?" Lila smiles, nods, and starts to reach for a glass, but then Helen swoops in like a hawk. "We're only serving water for now." She snaps, loud enough that a couple heads turn. Lila freezes, her hand hovering over the tray, confusion all over her face. But there's still," she starts. But Helen shoots her a look that could cut glass. Lila clamps her mouth shut and steps back, throwing Amara an awkward, apologetic glance. Amara's stomach twists. Okay. Now it's not just weird, it's wrong. She takes a slow breath, keeping her cool, and tries again. "I just saw you give juice to them," she says, nodding toward the cocktail guy and cranberry lady. Her voice is steady, but there's an edge creeping in. Helen turns back, and for the first time she actually looks at Amara, like really looks at her. Her eyes narrow just a flicker, and her lips press into a thin line. "Look, kid," she says, her tone dripping with that condescending "I'm adult here" energy. "We've got limited supplies up here. Juice is for first-class passengers, and I don't have time to play fetch for every last-minute request." She adjusts the tray in her hands like she's dismissing a whining toddler and starts to walk off. The words hit Amara like a slap. "Kid? Limited supplies?" She's not imagining this. Helen's lying right to her face. The guy 2 seats over just got a refill, for God's sake. Something hot flares in her chest, but she doesn't yell, doesn't snap. She's not that girl. Instead, she grabs her phone again, thumbs flying as she types a follow-up to her dad. "She just called me, kid, and said juice is only for first-class passengers. Everyone else has it but me. What's her deal?" "Send." Back near the galley, Helen's already brushing it off, pouring herself a tiny cup of coffee like she's won some petty victory. Lila trails in behind her, looking uneasy. "Hey, Helen," she says, keeping her voice low. "That girl in 3A, she didn't get any juice. There's still plenty left, though." Helen doesn't even look up, just takes a sip of her coffee. She asks too late. "I'm not running back and forth for every whiny teenager who can't make up her mind." Lila frowns. But there was juice right there. She's in first class, same as everyone else. Helen lets out this little scoff like Lila's some clueless newbie. "Trust me, you'll figure it out eventually. Some people just don't fit the vibe up here. Probably scored that seat on a fluke, upgrade or whatever. First class isn't a free-for-all." Lila's jaw tightens, but she doesn't push it. She's seen Helen pull rank before, little digs at passengers she doesn't like, subtle snubs that never quite cross the line. But this feels different. Bolder. Sloppier. She mutters a quiet, whatever, and heads back out, leaving Helen smirking into her coffee. What Helen doesn't know, what she can't know, is that Amara's phone just buzzed with a reply from Roland Kane. 2 words, short and sweet: "Stay put." Amara reads it, exhales slow, and slips the phone back into her pocket. Her dad's not the yelling type, never has been. When he's quiet like that, it's not him cooling off, it's him loading up. She leans back in her seat, folding her hands in her lap, and waits. Something's coming, and it's not just orange juice. out in the cabin. The vibe's shifting. The businessman across the aisle steals a glance at Amara, then at Helen, like he's piecing something together. The cranberry lady flips a page in her magazine. But her eyes aren't moving, she's listening. And up near the galley, Lila's hovering, her gut telling her this isn't over. She's right. Because right then the intercom crackles to life. And the captain's voice cuts through the hum of the plane. Helen Voss, report to the cockpit. Now. Heads turn. Whispers start. Helen freezes mid-sip, coffee sloshing slightly in her cup. The cockpit? That's not a casual, hey, come chat call. That's serious. Her jaw tightens, but she sets the cup down, smooths her uniform, and marches toward the front like she's still in control. She's not. Not anymore. Amara watches her go. Her face blank but her heart pounding. She's not sure what her dad's up to, but she knows one thing. Helen Voss just poked the wrong bear. And this flight's about to get a whole lot bumpier. Picture this. A sleek Cane Air flight slicing through the night sky, somewhere between New York and London. It's one of those red-eye flights where the cabin's bathed in that soft, dim glow. Half the passengers are already dozing, the other half sipping drinks or flipping through in light magazines. The first-class cabin smells like fresh coffee and money, with that faint clink of glassware as the flight attendants roll their carts down the aisle. Everything's running like clockwork, just the way Helen Voss likes it. Helen Voss, 47, isn't your average flight attendant. She's been doing this gig for 20 years, and she's damn good at it. She's the kind of woman who walks into a room, or in this case, a cabin, and you just know she's in charge. Her uniform's crisp, not a wrinkle in sight, her dark hair pulled back so tight it could double as a facelift. She's got this sharp, no-nonsense vibe. Think Meryl Streep in The Devil Wears Prada, but at 30,000 feet. Helen spent 2 decades perfecting her little kingdom up here in first class, where every tray's polished. Every passenger's accounted for and nothing gets past her. Tonight's no different. She's moving down the aisle with that signature efficiency. Her heels clicking against the carpet like a metronome. She pours a glass of fresh squeezed orange juice for the guy in 1A, a slick businessman with a Rolex that screams, I'm important. He barely looks up from his laptop, just grunts a thanks. Next up, 1B, a woman in a tailored blazer who flashes a polite smile as Helen hands her a sparkling water. Then there's the old guy across the aisle, gray hair, tweed jacket, who gets a little custom cocktail because, well, he asked nicely. Helen's got it all under control, doling out drinks and charm like she's running a 5-star restaurant in the sky. But then she reaches seat 3A, and something shifts. There's this girl sitting there, Amara Kane, 16 years old. Though you wouldn't guess it from how she carries herself. She's got a hoodie pulled up over her head, dark curls spilling out the sides, and a pair of earbuds dangling around her neck. She's not loud, not flashy, just a kid in jeans and sneakers, scrolling through her phone like she's done this 100 times before. And she has. Amara's no stranger to first class. She's been hopping flights like this since she could walk, thanks to her dad, Roland Kane. Yeah, that Roland Kane, the guy who built Cane Air from the ground up, the billionaire who owns every plane, every seat, every tray Helen's holding. But here's the thing, nobody on this flight knows that. Not yet. Amara glances up as Helen approaches, her brown eyes catching the light for a split second. Can I get some orange juice, please? She asks. Her voice is quiet, polite. Nothing demanding, nothing bratty. Just a simple request. Helen stops. The tray in her hands doesn't move. But her smile, it's gone. Her eyes flick over Amara, quick and cold, like she's sizing her up and not liking what she sees. There's this beat of silence. So fast you'd miss it if you weren't paying attention, but Amara catches it. Something's off. Helen straightens up, her grip tightening on the tray. We're only serving water right now, she says. Her tone clipped, like she's shutting down a telemarketer. She plunks a plastic cup of water, ice clinking against the sides, onto Amara's tray table and turns away without another word. Amara blinks. Wait, what? She just saw Helen pour orange juice for Mr. Rolex not 10 seconds ago. Her eyes dart to the guy across the aisle, sipping his cocktail like it's no big deal. She opens her mouth to say something, but I just saw you. Water's all we've got. Helen cuts her off, sharper this time, already halfway to the next passenger. It's not a suggestion. It's a door slamming shut. The air in the cabin shifts just a little. A guy 2 seats over adjusts his tie, pretending he didn't hear. The woman in 1B takes a sudden interest in her magazine. Nobody says a word, but they saw it. Amara feels this heat creeping up her neck. Not anger, not yet, just confusion tinged with something else. She's not imagining this, right? She leans back in her seat, staring at the untouched water, the ice melting slowly into a puddle on her tray. Okay, fine. Maybe the juice comes later. Maybe Helen's just having a bad night. Amara's not the type to make a scene, she's flown enough to know how this works. But still it stings. She brushes it off, or tries to, and pulls out her phone. Her fingers hover over the screen for a second before she starts typing a quick text to her dad. Hey Dad. Flight attendant won't give me juice. Everyone else got some. But she says it's just water for me. Flight KA 472. She hits send, locks her phone, and tucks it into her hoodie pocket. No big deal, right? Just venting to her dad like any teenager would. Except Roland Kane isn't just any dad. And that little text? It's about to flip this whole flight upside down. Helen keeps moving down the aisle oblivious, pouring drinks with that same mechanical precision. She's got no idea what's coming. The cabin hums along, quiet chatter, the drone of the engines, the faint clatter of ice in glasses. But up in seat 3A, Amara's not just another passenger anymore. She's a spark, and this plane's about to catch fire. Helen Voss strides toward the cockpit, her heels clicking like gunfire on the carpet. She's got that stiff "I've got this under control" posture, but inside? Her stomach's doing flips. Flight attendants don't get summoned to the cockpit unless something's seriously up. Mechanical failure, a drunk passenger swinging fists, something big. She's racking her brain as she goes. Did she miss a safety check? Did some jerk complain about the coffee? By the time she reaches the door, she's convinced herself it's no big deal. She's Helen Voss, queen of first class. She's handled worse. She knocks twice, sharp and quick, and steps inside. The cockpit's tight, 2 pilots up front, all dials and screens, the hum of the plane vibrating through the walls. Captain Daniel Pierce is in his seat, a grizzled guy in his 50s with a face that says he's seen it all. He doesn't turn around, just nods at the little screen on the console. Helen's eyes flick to it. And her breath catches. There's a man on the video feed, dark suit, silver hair, eyes like steel, and she knows him instantly. Roland Kane. The Roland Kane. The guy who signs her paychecks. Who built Kane Air into the empire it is. Her boss's boss's boss. And he's staring right at her. Helen Voss, Roland says, his voice low and smooth, the kind of calm that makes your skin crawl. We've got a problem. Her mouth goes dry, but she forces a smile, that tight, professional one she's perfected over the years. Mr. Kane, sir, I'm not sure what you mean. Everything's running smooth up here. Roland doesn't blink. Is that right? Because I just got a message from my daughter, seat 3A, saying you refused her a drink. Said you gave everyone else juice but told her it's water or nothing. Care to explain? Helen's brain scrambles. Daughter? Seat 3A? That hoodie kid? She feels the floor tilt under her. But she keeps her face steady. Sir, it's a misunderstanding. We've got limited supplies and I was just pacing things out. She asked late, that's all. Roland leans closer to the screen, his voice dropping an octave. A misunderstanding? You poured orange juice for the guy and one right in front of her. Cocktail for the old man across the aisle. But my daughter? Water. Why? Helen's palms sweat, but she doubles down. With all due respect, sir, passengers exaggerate sometimes. I was following protocol, first come, first served. I didn't mean any offense. Captain Pierce finally turns, his eyebrows up like he's watching a car wreck in slow motion. Helen, we've got a report from Lila too. She says there was plenty of juice left. Says you cut the kid off on purpose. Helen's head snaps toward him. Lila? That rookie's stirring trouble now. Her voice cracks just a hair, but she catches herself, smoothing it over. Sir. I assure you it's not what it looks like. Roland cuts in, sharp as a blade. I don't care what it looks like. I care what it is. And what it is, Helen, is you treating my daughter like she doesn't belong in my own damn airline. You didn't check her ticket. You didn't ask her name. You saw her and decided she's not worth the juice. Am I wrong? The cockpit goes dead quiet. Helen's heart's hammering so loud she's sure they can hear it. She wants to argue, to spin it, but Roland's eyes, they're pinning her like a bug on a board. I made a call, sir, she says, voice tight. It won't happen again. Damn right it won't, Roland snaps. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna march back out there. Bring her the orange juice she asked for and apologize in front of everyone. Loud enough they all hear it. Got it. Helen's jaw clenches so hard her teeth ache. Apologize? In front of the whole cabin? She's been running first class like a tight ship for 2 decades. Passengers don't question her, they thank her. And now this? Sir, I... Got it. Roland repeats. Slow and deliberate, like he's daring her to push back. She swallows hard. Yes, sir. Roland's face doesn't soften. Good. And Helen? This isn't over. The screen goes black. Helen stands there. Frozen, the hum of the engines filling the silence. Captain Pierce lets out a low whistle. You stepped in it this time, Voss. Better get moving. She doesn't answer. She turns on her heel and steps back into the cabin, her face burning. Every step feels like wading through mud. The passengers are watching now, some subtle, some not so much. The businessman in 1A glances up from his laptop. The Cranberry Ladies magazine isn't even pretending to hold her attention anymore. They know something's up. Amara's still in 3A, scrolling her phone like nothing's happened, but there's this quiet vibe about her, like she's waiting for the hammer to drop. Helen stops at her row, tray in hand, a fresh glass of orange juice glistening under the cabin lights. She clears her throat, forcing the words out. Miss Kane, I apologize for the mix-up earlier. Here's your orange juice. Amara looks up, slow and deliberate, her eyes locking onto Helen's. She doesn't reach for the glass. Mix-up, she says, her voice soft but razor-sharp. You gave everyone else what they wanted. You told me juice is only for first-class passengers, like I'm not one. So what's the mix-up exactly? The cabin goes still. The businessman shifts in his seat, smirking behind his hand. A woman up front lets out a quiet, "Oh," under her breath. Helen's face flushes. She can feel the heat crawling up her neck. I may have misjudged the situation, she says, the words tasting like dirt. It wasn't intentional. Amara tilts her head just a little. Wasn't it? That question, it's not loud, not angry, but it lands like a punch. Helen's gripping the tray so tight her knuckles go white. She doesn't have an answer, not one that'll hold up. The passengers are all ears now, no one even pretending to mind their own business. Lila's hovering near the galley, arms crossed, watching with this look that says, you dug this hole, Helen. Amara finally reaches for the juice, but she doesn't drink it. She just holds it, letting the silence stretch until it's unbearable. If you're gonna apologize, she says, calm as ever, at least make it real. Tell me why you did it. Helen's stomach drops. She's got nothing, no excuse, no spin, no way out. For the first time in 20 years, she's not the one running the show. This 16-year-old kid in a hoodie just flipped the whole damn script. And everyone's watching her squirm. She mumbles a weak, I'm sorry, and turns away, practically sprinting for the galley. But as she goes, she hears it, a whisper from the guy in 1A, she's toast. Back in her seat, Amara sets the juice down untouched and pulls out her phone. She types one last text to her dad. She said sorry. Barely. What now? The reply comes fast. Just wait. Helen's in the galley now, hands shaking as she grips the counter. She's still telling herself she can fix this, that it's just a bump in the road. But deep down, she knows. Roland Kane's not done with her. And whatever's coming next, it's gonna hit like a freight train. Helen Voss stumbles into the galley, her hands still trembling as she slams the tray down on the counter. The orange juice glass clinks hard against the metal. A little splash spilling over the edge, just like her composure starting to leak. She grips the edge of the counter, knuckles white, sucking in a shaky breath. That kid, Amara, just turned her into a punching bag in front of the whole damn cabin, and those whispers? They're buzzing in her ears like a swarm of bees. She can still hear that smug jerk in 1A. She's toast. Her face burns. 20 years running first class and now she's the one getting roasted? Lila's there, wiping down a coffee pot, but she's not even pretending to work. She's watching Helen, arms crossed, one eyebrow cocked like she's waiting for the meltdown. Rough one out there, huh? She says, her tone flat but dripping with I told you so. Helen spins on her. Eyes flashing. Don't start with me, Lila. I don't need your commentary. Lila shrugs, not backing down. Just saying you didn't have to dig in like that. She's a kid, Helen. You could have just given her the damn juice. Helen's voice drops to a hiss. You think I need a lecture from you? Some rookie who's been here 5 minutes? I made a call, it's my cabin, my rules. Yeah. Lila steps closer, her voice low but steady. Well, your call just got you hauled into the cockpit by the guy who owns this airline. And that kid? She's his daughter. So maybe your rules don't mean squat anymore. Helen's jaw locks tight. She wants to snap back to shut Lila up, but the words stick in her throat because, damn it, Lila's right. She turns away, pretending to fuss with the coffee cups, but her reflection in the shiny galley panel stares back at her. She looks rattled. For the first time in forever. She doesn't recognize the woman looking back. Out in the cabin, Amara's still chilling in 3A, scrolling her phone like she didn't just drop a bomb. That untouched orange juice sits on her tray. A silent middle finger to Helen's half-assed apology. The passengers are getting bolder now, whispers turning into murmurs. The businessman in 1A leans over to the cranberry lady in 2B. She's gotta be sweating bullets up there. Cranberry lady nods, smirking. Bet she didn't know who she was messing with. Amara hears it all but doesn't react. She's not here for the gossip, she's waiting. Her dad said just wait. And Roland Kane doesn't mess around. She glances at her phone again. No new text yet, but she knows something's brewing. She can feel it in the air, thick and heavy like the calm before a storm. Back in the galley, Helen's trying to pull herself together when the intercom crackles again. Helen Voss. Report to the cockpit. Immediately. Captain Pierce's voice cuts through, sharper this time, like he's done playing nice. Helen freezes. Again? Her stomach drops like the plane just hit turbulence. Lila lets out a low whistle. Oof. Twice in one flight. That's gotta be a record. Shut up, Helen snaps, but her voice wobbles. She smooths her uniform, more out of habit than anything, and heads back toward the cockpit. The cabin's watching now, no subtlety left. Heads turn as she passes, eyes tracking her like she's a dead woman walking. The guy in 1A doesn't even hide his grin. She keeps her chin up, but inside she's unraveling fast. Inside the cockpit, it's worse than before. Captain Pierce doesn't look at her this time. Just stares straight ahead, hands on the controls. The screen's live again and Roland Kane's back, but he's not alone. There's another guy now, Damon Whitaker, Kane Air's senior ops manager. A suit with a permanent scowl. And Roland? His calm's gone cold, lethal like a shark circling blood. Helen. Roland starts. His voice so low it vibrates through the room. You think this is a game? She clasps her hands in front of her, a nervous tick she can't shake. No, sir. I apologize like you asked. I brought her the juice. Roland's eyes narrow. Yeah, I heard. A weak-ass sorry that didn't mean a damn thing. You think that fixes it? You think I don't see what's going on? Damon jumps in, flipping through a tablet. We've got statements coming in already, passengers, Lila, even the galley cam footage. You didn't just skip her, Helen. You dismissed her. Told her juice is for first-class passengers like she's some stowaway. Helen's pulse races. Sarah, I didn't mean, I was just managing resources. Cut the crap, Roland snaps, his voice slicing through her excuse like a knife. You looked at my daughter, 16 years old, sitting in a seat I paid for, and decided she didn't belong. You didn't check her ticket. You didn't ask her name. You saw a black kid in a hoodie and figured she's not worth your time. That's what this is, isn't it? The cockpit feels like it's shrinking. Helen's mouth opens, but nothing comes out. She wants to deny it, to spin it, but Roland's not guessing. He's knowing. And that cam footage. She didn't even think about that. Her mind spinning, grasping for a lifeline. But there's none. Roland leans closer to the screen. You're done for this flight. When we land, you stay on board. Security's meeting you at the gate, and you're coming straight to headquarters. We're not done talking. Sir, she starts, but he's already gone. The screen blinks off. Pierce lets out a slow breath. You heard him, Helen. Better brace yourself. She staggers out of the cockpit, legs shaky, head buzzing. The cabin's a blur as she walks back, passengers staring, whispers swelling. She's screwed, someone mutters. I'd fire her on the spot. Another chimes in. Helen's chest tightens. She's not just losing control, she's losing everything. Back in 3A, Amara's phone buzzes. She glances at it. Roland, it's handled. Stay seated. She locks the screen and leans back, calm as ever. Helen might think she's still got a shred of power left, but Amara knows better. Her dad's not just mad, he's methodical. And when Roland Kane moves, he doesn't miss. Helen reaches the galley, slamming the door shut behind her. Lila's still there, smirking now. Told you, she says, tossing a rag onto the counter. You picked the wrong fight. Helen doesn't answer. She's staring at the wall, breathing hard, realizing for the first time that this isn't just a bad shift. This is the beginning of the end. Helen Voss is clinging to the galley counter like it's the last lifeboat on the Titanic. Her hands are shaking, her breath shallow, and her mind's racing a mile a minute. Security at the gate? Headquarters with Roland Kane? This isn't just a slap on the wrist. This is her career circling the drain. She spent 20 years building her rep as the untouchable queen of first class. And now it's unraveling faster than a cheap sweater. Those whispers from the cabin, they're not whispers anymore. They're voices loud and clear, slicing through the thin galley curtain like knives. Lila's still there, leaning against the wall, arms crossed, watching Helen fall apart with zero sympathy. You're toast, you know that, right? She says, her voice casual but cutting. Roland Kane doesn't mess around. And you just pissed off the wrong guy. Helen whips around, her eyes wild. You think this is funny? I've been doing this job since you were in diapers, Lila. I don't need your smug little attitude. Lila doesn't flinch. Maybe not. But you needed to think twice before you treated that girl like trash. She's 16, Helen. 16. And you acted like she crashed the party. Helen's voice cracks. I didn't. I was just doing my job. No, you weren't, Lila fires back, stepping closer. You saw a kid in a hoodie and decided she didn't belong. You didn't check her ticket, didn't ask her name, you just assumed. And now you're screwed because she's not just some random passenger. She's Roland Kane's kid. Helen's chest heaves. She wants to scream, to shove Lila out of the way, to rewind this whole damn flight. But she can't. The truth sinking in, heavy and cold. She didn't just mess up. She misjudged the wrong person, and it's about to cost her everything. Out in the cabin, the vibe's electric. Passengers aren't even pretending to mind their own business anymore. The businessman in one has got his phone out, tapping away, probably texting his buddies about the drama. She's done. He mutters to the guy next to him. I'd bet money she's out by morning. Cranberry Lady's nodding, smirking like she's front row at a cage fight. Serves her right. That poor girl didn't do a thing. Amara's still in 3A, calm as a statue, scrolling her phone like she's oblivious to the chaos she sparked. That orange juice? Still sitting there, untouched, a silent trophy of her win. She hears the chatter, feels the stares, but she doesn't budge. Her dad said stay seated, and she trusts him. Roland Kane doesn't bluff when he says it's handled, it's handled. Then the intercom buzzes and Captain Pierce's voice cuts through. Ladies and gentlemen, we're starting our descent into London Heathrow. Please fasten your seatbelts and stow your tray tables. Flight crew, prepare for landing. The plane tilts slightly, the engines humming louder as the runway lights wink into view below. For most people, this is just the end of a long flight. For Helen, it's a countdown to doom. She steps out of the galley, forcing herself to do the final checks. Seatbelts, trays, the usual drill. But it's different now. Every passenger she passes is staring. Judging. The guy in 1A smirks as she adjusts his tray. Not your day, huh? He says, loud enough for the row to hear. A few people chuckle. Helen's face burns, but she keeps moving. Her smile so tight it could crack glass. She reaches Amara's row, hesitating for a split second. The girl's buckled in, tray up, phone in her lap, picture-perfect passenger. Helen clears her throat. Her voice then. Miss Kane, you good for landing? Amara looks up, slow and deliberate, her eyes locking onto Helen's. There's no anger there, no smugness, just this quiet, unshakable confidence that makes Helen feel 2 inches tall. I'm fine, Amara says, pausing just long enough to let it sink in. Then she adds you. Helen's breath hitches. You? That one word, it's not a question, it's a jab. She forces a nod, muttering, of course, and turns away fast. But Amara's voice follows her, soft but lethal. Good luck. The cabin's watching it all go down. The chuckles turn into murmurs, then outright chatter. She's toast, someone says again. I'd hate to be her right now, another adds. Helen's legs feel like jelly as she heads back to the galley, her heart pounding so hard she can barely hear the engines. The plane touches down with a jolt, tires screeching against the runway. Passengers shift, unbuckling, reaching for their bags, but Amara stays put, just like her dad told her. The jet bridge locks into place, the door hisses open, and first class starts to empty out. People file past Helen, some throwing her quick glances, others flat out staring. She's standing by the exit, forcing that fake smile, muttering, "Thank you for flying Cane Air," like a broken record. But it's hollow. They know it, she knows it. Then the intercom buzzes one last time. "Helen Voss, remain on board after deplaning. Ground crew's got instructions." Pierce's voice is flat, final. The cabin goes quiet for a beat, then erupts. "Oh, she's done," the businessman calls out, not even trying to whisper. "I'm posting this, Twitter's gonna eat it up," Cranberry Lady says, pulling out her phone. Helen's frozen, her smile slipping as the last passengers shuffle out. She steals a glance at Amara, still seated, still calm. The girl's not moving, not yet. Then two security guards step onto the plane. Big guys in dark uniforms, their radios crackling. "Helen Voss." One says, his voice all business. She nods barely. "Yeah. Come with us," he says, gesturing toward the jet bridge. The other guards already eyeing her like she's a flight risk. Helen's throat tightens. She's not the one giving orders anymore. She's the one being led away. As she starts to move, Amara stands up, slow and deliberate, grabbing her backpack. She steps into the aisle, that orange juice still on her tray, and walks right past Helen. But just as she reaches the exit, she stops, turns, looks Helen dead in the eye. Then with one smooth motion, she picks up the glass and tips it over, orange juice splashing onto the carpet in a bright, messy puddle right at Helen's feet. "Cute apology earlier," Amara says, her voice ice cold. "But next time you want to play gatekeeper, check who's on the damn plane." She doesn't wait for a reply, just slings her backpack over her shoulder and walks off, leaving Helen standing there, drenched in humiliation. The guards grab Helen's arms, nudging her forward. The cabin's empty now, but the echoes of laughter and whispers linger. Her phone buzzes in her pocket, probably a notification from HQ, but she doesn't check it. She can't. Because as she's hauled off the plane, one thought slams into her like a brick. She didn't just lose control. She lost everything. The plane's engines wind down, a low rumble fading into silence as the last passengers shuffle off into the jet bridge. Helen Voss stands there, rooted by the exit, her fake smile plastered on like it's been stapled to her face. "Thank you for flying Cane Air," she mutters over and over, but it's robotic now, empty words spilling out while her mind's screaming. Amara's orange juice is still pooling on the carpet, a sticky mess soaking into her shoes, and that final jab, "Check who's on the damn plane," is ringing in her ears like a bad song on repeat. She's trying to hold it together, but the cracks are showing. The security guards are hovering, their radios crackling with static, waiting for her to move. The cabin's almost empty now. Just a few stragglers grabbing bags from the overhead bins. But the air's thick with something tension, judgment, maybe a little glee. The businessman from 1A saunters past, phone in hand, smirking like he's just won the lottery. "Gonna be a hell of a story at the bar tonight," he tosses over his shoulder, not even looking at her. Cranberry Lady's right behind him, already typing furiously on her phone. "This is going viral, mark my words," she says to no one in particular, her voice loud enough to bounce off the walls. Helen's stomach twists. Viral? She can feel it, the story's already slipping out of her control, spreading like wildfire. She's been the one calling shots for 20 years, deciding who gets the VIP treatment, who gets the cold shoulder. Now, she's the one getting roasted and she can't stop it. Her hands clench at her sides, nails digging into her palms as the guards finally step closer. "Let's go, MS. Voss," one says, his tone flat but firm. She nods barely and starts moving, each step heavier than the last. Amara's already gone, slipping out into the terminal with that cool, unbothered stride like she didn't just light a match and walk away from the explosion. Her backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds dangling, and her phone buzzes with a new text from Roland. "Cars at arrivals. Security's got her. Head out when you're ready." She doesn't reply yet, just pockets it and keeps walking, letting the chaos unfold behind her. Back on the plane, Lila's still lingering, wiping down trays with a rag, but she's not really cleaning. She's watching the jet bridge through the open door, catching glimpses of Helen being led away. "Told her." She mutters under her breath, shaking her head. "You don't mess with the boss's kid." She tosses the rag aside and pulls out her own phone. Texts from the crew group chat are already blowing up. Helen's toast. Did you see the juice thing? Kane's gonna bury her. Lila smirks, typing back. She dug her own grave. Front row seat was worth it. Helen's in the jet bridge now. The guard's steering her toward a side exit away from the main terminal, straight into the belly of the airport where the big dogs wait. Her mind's racing, grasping for a way out. Maybe she can spin it, say it was a bad day, a slip-up, anything to save her skin. She's got 20 years of loyalty, right? That's gotta count for something. But Roland's voice keeps cutting through her excuses. Stay on board. Security's meeting you. No wiggle room, no mercy, just cold, hard orders from the top. The passengers, though? They're not done with her yet. The guy from one is already in the terminal, leaning against a coffee kiosk, recording a quick video on his phone. So, get this, flight attendant on Kane Air just tanked her whole career over a glass of juice. Refused this kid in first class, turns out it's the owner's daughter. She's getting hauled off now, wildest flight I've ever been on. He posts it, and the likes start rolling in 10, 50, 100 in minutes. Cranberry Lady's right there with him, her tweet already up. Kane Air flight attendant thought she ran the show. Spoiler, she didn't. Hashtag first class fail, it's trending before Helen even hits the hallway. Helen feels it, the shift. The weight, like the whole world's watching her crash and burn. The guards lead her through a locked door, down a fluorescent-lit corridor that smells like jet fuel and regret. Her phone buzzes in her pocket, probably Lila or the crew or worse HQ, but she doesn't dare look. Not yet. She's still telling herself she can fix this, that Roland will hear her out, that 20 years means something. But deep down she knows. She's not walking into a meeting. She's walking into a guillotine. Out in arrivals, Amara spots the black SUV waiting curbside. Tinted windows. Driver in a crisp suit holding a sign, Kane. She slides into the back seat, the door shutting with a soft thud. The driver glances back. Rough flight, miss? She smirks, just a little. Not for me. Her phone lights up again. Roland, she's with security. I'll handle the rest. You good? She types back, yeah. See you soon. Back in that corridor, Helen's steps echo. The guard's boots thumping behind her. The conference room's up ahead. Glass walls, suits inside, and Roland Kane waiting like a storm cloud ready to break. She's got no idea what's coming. But one thing's clear, the Queen of First Class just lost her crown. And the wreckage? It's only starting to pile up. Helen Voss steps off the jet bridge, flanked by the two security guards like she's some perp on a perp walk. The airport's buzzing distant announcements. The clatter of luggage wheels, but it all fades into a dull roar in her ears. Her legs move on autopilot, but her mind's a mess, replaying every second of that flight like a bad movie stuck on loop. 20 years, 2 freaking decades. Running first class like it was her own personal empire. And now she's being marched through a back corridor like a criminal. The guards don't talk. Just keep their hands loose on her arms, guiding her past the usual passenger chaos into a quiet, sterile hallway. She knows where they're going, straight to the Kane Air brass. The conference room's waiting, big glass walls, a long table, and 4 suits sitting there like a firing squad. Damon Whitaker's at one end, the ops manager with his perpetual scowl, flipping through a tablet stacked with evidence. The other 2 execs, some HR stiff and a legal guy she vaguely recognizes, are murmuring over paperwork. And at the head of the table, Roland Kane himself. He's in person now, not just a face on a screen, tall, silver-haired, radiating this quiet menace that makes the room feel 10 degrees colder. He's got his hands folded, suit jacket unbuttoned, and those steel eyes locked on her the second she walks in. Sit, Roland says, his voice flat but heavy, like a judge dropping a gavel. Helen sinks into the chair across from him, her hands curling into fists on her lap. The guards step back, hovering by the door, and the silence stretches until it's suffocating. Damon breaks it first, sliding his tablet across the table. Helen Voss, 20 years with Kane Air. Senior flight attendant, spotless record until today. Care to tell us what the hell happened up there? Her throat's dry, but she forces her voice steady. It was a mix-up, sir. A service glitch. I apologized, fixed it. There's no need for all this. Roland tilts his head just a fraction. A glitch? That what you're calling it? He leans forward, elbows on the table, and it's like the air gets sucked out of the room. You refused my daughter a drink. You gave everyone else what they wanted, juice. Cocktails, whatever, but her? Water. Then you lied to her face, said it's only for first-class passengers. She's 16, Helen. In a seat I own. Explain that. Helen's nails dig into her palms. I didn't know who she was, sir. I was just... You didn't need to know who she was. Roland's voice cracks like a whip, not loud but sharp enough to make her flinch. She's a passenger. First class. Paying customer. That's all that should have mattered. But you saw her, young, black, hoodie, and decided she didn't fit your little rulebook. You didn't check her ticket. You didn't ask. You assumed. And when she called you out, you doubled down. Damon taps his tablet. We've got it all: passenger statements, Lila's report, galley cam footage. 12 people saw you skip her, Helen. 12. And that's before we even get to the part where you tried to bullshit your way out of it with me and the captain. The HR guy pipes up, adjusting his glasses. There's also a video circulating online already. Some passenger posted it. Cane Air flight attendant humiliates teen in first class. It's at 50,000 views and climbing. Helen's stomach lurches. Online. She feels the walls closing in, her career crumbling under her like quicksand. Sir, I've given this airline everything, she says, voice shaking now. 20 years perfect service. No complaints. This was one mistake. Please, you've got to see that. Roland's eyes don't waver. 20 years doesn't buy you a free pass to treat people like garbage. You think loyalty erases what you did? You humiliated my daughter in front of a plane full of people because you thought you could. And you know what's worse? He pauses, letting it hang. I'd bet my last dollar this isn't the first time you've pulled this. It's just the first time you got caught. That hits her like a gut punch. She wants to argue, to say he's wrong. But flashes of memory flicker through her mind. Little moments over the years, passengers she brushed off, requests she ignored, all because they didn't fit her idea of first class. She never thought twice about it. Until now. Roland stands, buttoning his jacket slow and deliberate. You're suspended, effective immediately. Full investigation starts tomorrow. You'll get a call with the details if there's anything left to salvage. But don't hold your breath. Damon slides a paper across the table. Official suspension notice, her name in bold. You're done here for now. Security'll walk you out. Helen stares at the paper, her vision blurring. Suspended. After 20 years it's over, just like that. She opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. Roland's already heading for the door. The execs gathering their stuff behind him. One last thing, he says, pausing without turning. Think hard about what you did up there, Helen. Because I'm not just her dad. I'm the guy who built this airline. And I don't forget. He's gone. The guards step forward, nodding at her to move. She stands, legs wobbly, and lets them lead her out. The hallway's a blur. Fluorescent lights flickering, her heels echoing in the empty space. Her phone buzzes in her pocket. Probably more bad news, but she doesn't check it. She can't face it yet. Meanwhile, Amara strolling through the terminal, backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds back in. She's not rushing, not gloating, just moving like someone who knows she's already won. Her phone pings with a text from Roland. Good job, kiddo. Car's outside. Let's get you home. She smirks just a little and heads for the exit. Back on the plane, the crew's cleaning up. Lila's wiping down Amara's tray table, shaking her head at the orange juice stain on the carpet. Hell of a flight, she mutters to herself, grinning. Out in the digital world. That video's blowing up. Hashtags like hashtag Caneair drama and hashtag first class fail trending fast. Comments are pouring in. She had it coming. That kid's a legend. Caneair better fire her essay. Helen's name's already a punchline, her reign over first class reduced to a viral cautionary tale. She built her throne on control, on deciding who deserved what, but today, she picked the wrong fight. And as Amara disappears into the London night, Roland's words echo in the wreckage. I don't forget. For Helen, it's not just a bad day. It's the end of an era. And for everyone watching, it's one hell of a story. So there you have it. Helen Voss's empire crumbled faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. One flight, one glass of orange juice, and 20 years of control went up in smoke. She's out there somewhere now, maybe staring at that suspension notice, wondering where it all went wrong. And Amara? She's back in her world, probably kicking it with Roland over dinner. Swapping stories about the day she turned a plane into a battlefield without even raising her voice. The video's still blowing up online. Last check, it's at 500,000 views. with comments like "Justice served cold" and "Kaner's got a clean house." The internet doesn't forget, and neither does Roland Kane. But let's zoom out for a sec. This isn't just some wild airline drama to gawk at. It's a slice of real life, 2025 style. Think about it. We're all on our own little planes every day, right? Maybe it's your job, your school, your crew, wherever you've got people flexing power, making snap calls about who's in and who's out. Helen thought she could gatekeep her way through life, picking winners and losers based on nothing but a quick glance. And for a while it worked, until she crashed into someone who wouldn't let it slide. Amara didn't need to scream or throw a fit. She just hit send on a text and let the truth do the heavy lifting. Here's the kicker though, this stuff happens all the time. Maybe it's not a flight attendant snubbing you over juice, maybe it's a boss overlooking you, a teacher writing you off, or some random jerk at the store acting like you don't belong. We've all been Amara at some point, stuck in a moment where someone's got the nerve to decide your worth without even asking your name. And yeah, we don't all have a Roland Kane in our corner to drop the hammer, but we've got something. A voice, a phone, a shot to call it out. Helen's big mistake wasn't just dissing the wrong kid, it was thinking no one would care enough to push back. So what's the takeaway? Power's a tricky thing, it's only yours until someone proves it isn't. Helen learned that the hard way, and now she's a hashtag instead of a headliner. Maybe next time you're in a spot where someone's trying to box you out, you'll think of Amara, calm, cool, and ready to flip the script. Or maybe you'll just double-check who's on your plane before you start playing gatekeeper. Either way, it's a hell of a reminder. Don't sleep on the quiet ones, they might just have the loudest backup. Love this ride? Then don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you're locked in for the next story. We've got more drama, more twists, and more reckonings coming your way. Drop a comment too. Tell me where you're tuning in from, if you've ever had your own orange juice moment, or what you'd have done in Helen's shoes. Let's keep this convo going because trust me, the skies are full of stories and I'm just getting started. See you on the next flight.